Imagine coming home every single day to absolute silence. No one waiting for you. No voice calling your name. No emotional connection after hours of stress, pressure, exhaustion, and loneliness. For millions of people around the world, this is not imagination. It is daily life. Modern life has made humans more connected digitally than ever before. People talk through screens, share emotions through messages, and spend entire days surrounded by strangers. Yet loneliness continues to rise across the planet. Scientists now describe loneliness as one of the biggest psychological problems of modern civilization. Not because humans suddenly became weak, but because humans were never designed to live emotionally isolated lives. And this is where pets quietly changed human history. A dog waiting at the door. A cat sleeping beside someone during the hardest night of their life. A bird responding to a familiar voice. Even a small fish swimming calmly inside a room can reduce stress levels inside the human brain. At first, pets may seem simple companions. Animals people keep for comfort, entertainment, or emotional support. But the reality is far deeper than most people realize. Because pets do something extraordinary to the human nervous system. They reduce stress hormones. They lower feelings of anxiety. They help regulate emotional pain. And in many cases, they give people a reason to keep going during the darkest moments of their lives. Humans and animals have shared a connection for thousands of years. Long before cities existed, humans depended on animals for survival. Dogs helped track prey. Cats protected food supplies from rodents. Horses transformed transportation and agriculture. Over time, something unexpected happened. These relationships stopped being purely practical. They became emotional. Scientists believe dogs were among the first animals ever domesticated by humans over 15,000 years ago. At first, wolves likely approached human camps searching for food scraps. The less aggressive wolves survived closer to humans. Generation after generation, those wolves slowly evolved into early dogs. But something else evolved too. An emotional bond unlike almost anything else in nature. Today, studies show that when humans look into the eyes of their dogs, both the dog and the human experience increased oxytocin levels inside the brain. Oxytocin is often called the bonding hormone. It is associated with trust, attachment, love, and emotional connection. The same hormone involved between parents and children. In other words, the human brain can emotionally connect to pets in ways surprisingly similar to human relationships. And that changes everything. Because loneliness does not only affect emotions. It affects the body itself. Chronic loneliness has been linked to higher stress levels, poor sleep, depression, weakened immune systems, and increased risk of heart disease. The human brain interprets long-term isolation almost like a survival threat. In ancient environments, isolation often meant danger. Being alone increased vulnerability to predators, starvation, and death. Humans evolved as deeply social creatures. The nervous system expects connection. Pets help fill part of that emotional gap. Not because animals replace humans completely, but because companionship itself changes brain chemistry. This is why so many people describe pets as family members instead of property. For someone struggling emotionally, even small interactions can matter enormously. A dog forcing its owner to go outside for daily walks. A cat quietly sitting beside someone during anxiety attacks. A rabbit, bird, or hamster creating daily routines and emotional responsibility. These actions may seem small from the outside, but psychologically they can become life-changing. One of the most powerful effects pets have on humans is routine. Depression often destroys structure in daily life. People stop exercising. They stop sleeping properly. They lose motivation. Days begin blending together. Pets interrupt this pattern. Animals need feeding schedules, exercise, attention, care, consistency. Even when a person feels emotionally exhausted, the responsibility of caring for another living creature forces small acts of movement and routine. And sometimes those small routines become the first steps toward emotional recovery. This is one reason therapy animals have become increasingly important across hospitals, rehabilitation centers, and mental health programs around the world. Studies have shown that interacting with animals can lower cortisol levels, the primary stress hormone associated with anxiety and chronic stress. At the same time, pets can increase dopamine and serotonin levels, chemicals associated with pleasure, calmness, and emotional stability. The effect can happen surprisingly fast. Simply petting a dog for several minutes can reduce blood pressure and heart rate. Hearing a cat purr may create calming neurological responses inside the brain. Even watching fish swim inside aquariums has been linked to reduced stress and anxiety in certain environments. Humans are not only emotionally affected by pets, they are biologically affected by them. And perhaps one of the most remarkable things about pets is this: animals do not care about social status. They do not care how successful someone is, how attractive they are, how much money they have, how many failures they experienced that day. To a pet, emotional presence matters more than status. For many people living in emotionally cold or highly stressful environments, this unconditional connection becomes incredibly powerful, especially during moments when human relationships become complicated, painful, or unstable. Some people experience divorce. Others lose family members. Some move to new countries where they know nobody. Others battle depression silently for years. And during those moments, pets often become emotional anchors. Not because animals magically solve human problems, but because emotional support changes how humans survive problems. There are countless stories of dogs sensing panic attacks before they happen. Cats remaining beside owners during periods of grief. Animals helping veterans cope with trauma after war. Service dogs assisting people with severe anxiety disorders or post-traumatic stress. Science still does not fully understand how deeply animals can detect human emotional states. But many animals respond strongly to human tone, behavior, stress signals, and body language. In some cases, pets appear to recognize sadness before other humans do. And perhaps this explains why losing a pet can feel emotionally devastating. Because for many people, pets are not secondary relationships. They become part of daily emotional survival itself. For many people, the hardest moments in life happen quietly. Not during dramatic disasters. Not during public breakdowns. But alone at night, when stress becomes overwhelming and the mind refuses to slow down. This is where pets often become something far more important than companionship. They become emotional stability. Across the world, mental health experts have increasingly studied the relationship between humans and animals. And again, researchers discovered the same pattern. People with healthy relationships with pets often experience lower stress, reduced feelings of loneliness, and improved emotional resilience. But why does this happen so consistently? Part of the answer lies inside the human brain itself. Humans evolved to respond emotionally to social connection. Touch, eye contact, movement, and companionship all affect neurological activity. When humans experience emotional isolation for long periods, the brain can become trapped in cycles of stress and hypervigilance. Pets interrupt those cycles. A dog excitedly greeting its owner at the door may seem simple. But psychologically, that interaction creates emotional recognition and positive reinforcement. The brain receives signals associated with belonging, safety, and attachment. And these reactions are not imaginary. Brain imaging studies have shown that interactions with pets can activate reward systems inside the human brain similar to those activated during positive human relationships. This does not mean animals replace humans entirely, but it reveals something extraordinary about emotional biology. The human nervous system responds powerfully to connection itself. And pets provide connection without judgment, social pressure, or complicated expectations. In modern society, many relationships are tied to performance. People feel pressure to succeed, appear confident, stay productive, and constantly meet social expectations. Over time, this creates emotional exhaustion. Pets operate differently. A dog does not care about career failure. Cat does not judge social anxiety. A bird does not care whether someone had a productive day. For many emotionally overwhelmed people, this creates a rare form of psychological safety. And safety changes human behavior dramatically. People become calmer around trusted animals. Breathing slows. Stress responses decrease. Emotional tension lowers. This is why therapy animals are now used in hospitals, schools, disaster zones, and rehabilitation programs. Children with anxiety disorders sometimes communicate more comfortably around animals than around adults. Elderly patients experiencing isolation often show emotional improvement after interacting with pets. Trauma survivors frequently report feeling emotionally safer around animals during recovery. Animals create emotional grounding. And in a world where millions of people feel disconnected from each other, grounding has become extremely valuable. One of the clearest examples of this can be seen in dog ownership. Dogs force humans into movement and routine. Daily walks increase physical activity. Outdoor exposure improves mood regulation. Interaction with other dog owners can even increase social connection between strangers. Something as simple as walking a dog through a neighborhood may slowly reduce isolation over time. People begin conversations. Communities form. Routines stabilize. In this way, pets do not only affect emotional health internally. They also change human behavior externally. And the effects can become surprisingly large over time. Researchers have found that pet owners often experience lower blood pressure and reduced cardiovascular stress compared to non-pet owners. Some studies even suggest pet ownership may contribute to longer life expectancy in certain populations. Part of this may come from increased movement and routine, but emotional regulation likely plays a major role as well. Chronic stress damages the body. Long-term anxiety increases inflammation, weakens immune responses, disrupts sleep, and affects heart health. Humans were never meant to remain under constant psychological pressure. Pets help interrupt that pressure. Even brief moments of emotional comfort matter biologically. This may explain why so many people instinctively hug pets during moments of sadness or stress. Physical touch itself affects the nervous system. Touch can lower stress hormones and create calming neurological responses. And unlike many human relationships, pets often provide comfort without requiring explanation. Sometimes that silent presence matters more than words. There are people who survived periods of depression because a pet depended on them. People who resisted suicidal thoughts because they could not imagine abandoning their dog or cat. People who endured grief, illness, divorce, or trauma with emotional support coming primarily from animals. These stories are more common than most realize, because during emotional collapse, purpose becomes critical. And pets create purpose. Feeding schedules, daily care, responsibility, protection, connection. All these things give structure to minds struggling with chaos. But perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of human-pet relationships is how deeply humans emotionally anthropomorphize animals. Humans naturally assign emotions, personalities, and meaning to animal behavior. People talk to pets like family members, celebrate their birthdays, sleep beside them, mourn them deeply after death. From a scientific perspective, this behavior reveals something important. Humans are biologically wired for emotional attachment. Pets activate caregiving systems inside the brain similar to those involved in family bonding. This is especially visible with dogs. Dogs evolved alongside humans for thousands of years. Over generations, they became remarkably skilled at reading human body language, facial expressions, gestures, and emotional tones. In fact, dogs are among the few species capable of consistently interpreting human pointing gestures naturally. They observe emotional cues with extraordinary sensitivity. Some dogs can even detect seizures, diabetic emergencies, or panic attacks before symptoms fully appear. Scientists believe animals achieve this partly through scent detection and behavioral observation. Humans release subtle chemical and physical changes during stress, fear, illness, and anxiety. Many animals appear capable of sensing these changes long before humans consciously recognize them. This creates an almost mysterious emotional connection between pets and people, a connection that often feels deeply personal. And perhaps this explains why pets are becoming increasingly important in modern society. Urban life continues growing. Digital communication replaces physical interaction. Millions of people spend large portions of life isolated behind screens, apartments, offices, and routines. At the same time, emotional stress levels continue rising globally. Pets quietly help humans cope with these conditions, not through complicated solutions, but through companionship, routine, emotional consistency, and unconditional presence. And maybe that is what makes them so powerful. Because in a world where people often feel ignored, judged, or emotionally disconnected, pets make people feel seen. What makes pets truly extraordinary is not simply that humans love them. It is that humans emotionally change because of them. Over time, pets reshape routines, habits, emotional reactions, and even the atmosphere inside homes themselves. A quiet apartment suddenly feels alive because a cat jumps across furniture at night. A stressful morning becomes calmer because a dog waits excitedly for a walk. The emotional energy of an environment changes when another living creature shares it. And humans feel that difference deeply. Scientists have long understood that emotional environments affect mental health. Stressful surroundings increase anxiety and emotional fatigue. Cold, isolated environments often intensify loneliness and depressive symptoms. Pets disrupt emotional emptiness. Even simple sounds matter psychologically. The footsteps of a dog across a floor, a cat purring beside someone during sleepless nights, birds singing in the morning. These small signals constantly remind the human brain that it is not completely alone. And for social creatures like humans, that feeling can become incredibly important. But the relationship between humans and pets goes even deeper than emotional comfort. Pets also change human identity. People begin thinking differently once another living creature depends on them. Responsibility creates attachment. Attachment creates protection. And protection strengthens emotional meaning. This is why many pet owners describe caring for animals almost like parenting. They worry when pets become sick. They feel guilt when leaving them alone. They celebrate recovery after illness. They experience grief after loss. To outsiders, these emotions may sometimes seem excessive. But neurologically, the emotional bond is very real. The human brain does not separate emotional attachment into simple categories. Love, care, protection, and companionship activate powerful systems tied to survival and social connection. And perhaps this explains one of the saddest realities about modern life. Many people receive more emotional comfort from pets than from other humans. In highly stressful societies, people often struggle to trust each other completely. Relationships become complicated by expectations, conflict, judgment, competition, or emotional distance. Pets offer something radically different: consistency. A dog remains excited to see its owner even after a terrible day. A cat may quietly stay beside someone during emotional breakdowns. Animals do not care about embarrassment, failure, social status, or appearance. For emotionally exhausted people, this unconditional presence can feel almost healing. And the impact becomes especially powerful for children. Studies have shown that children growing up with pets often develop stronger empathy, emotional awareness, and nurturing behaviors. Animals teach responsibility, patience, gentleness, and nonverbal communication. Children also frequently treat pets as emotional confidants. They speak openly to animals during stress, sadness, or loneliness because pets feel emotionally safe. In some cases, pets help children cope with trauma, bullying, family instability, or anxiety disorders. For elderly people, the effects can be equally important. Aging often increases social isolation. Friends disappear. Families move away. Daily interaction decreases. Pets help reduce this emotional emptiness. They create routine, companionship, movement, and emotional connection during periods when loneliness can become psychologically dangerous. This is one reason animal-assisted therapy programs continue expanding globally. Hospitals, nursing homes, schools, rehabilitation centers, and even prisons increasingly use animals to support emotional well-being. Because the science is becoming impossible to ignore, human health is deeply connected to emotional connection, and pets provide that connection in remarkably effective ways. But perhaps the most fascinating truth: about pets is that they remind humans of something modern society often forgets. Life is not purely about productivity. Animals do not care about social media success. They do not measure worth through money, popularity, or status. They care about attention, presence, safety, affection, and trust. And when humans spend enough time around pets, they often begin valuing those same things more deeply themselves. In a strange way, animals reconnect humans to emotional simplicity. A walk outside, quiet companionship, daily routine, playfulness, affection without conditions. These things seem small until they disappear. Then humans realize how psychologically important they truly are. And maybe this is why losing a pet can feel devastating beyond explanation. Because people are not only losing an animal,